afternoon, everyone. My name is Uday, and I lead the Gen AI initiatives for NIIT. Just for all of you, a quick background. NIIT is a 45-year-old company that began with a simple mission of bringing people and computers together successfully. But over the years, our mission has evolved, and we like to believe that we help people realize their full potential. And our talent development solutions are meant both for individuals as well as organizations. So hopefully my short session will whet your appetite even further. I know I'm between you and lunch. Of course, a number of panelists have spoken about AI and what that means, and I want to share our perspective. Very quickly, we've been using AI perhaps without being aware of it for over 2 or 3 decades, but I think the launch of ChatGPT is what really caught everyone's imagination, because that made AI in some ways visibly available to end users. And in fact, in a short period of less than 9 months, it reached what is called the peak of inflated expectations as per Gartner, which tracks the launch and progression of new technologies. And over 1 billion users signed up for it, in fact, in the first few months itself and by the end of the first year. And which is what, in some ways, led to, late last year, the technology having reached what is called a phase which is called the trough of disillusionment. Now, many people would say, therefore, that's not a great thing. But interestingly, that is the stage when technologies actually mature, and many of the teething problems with those technologies get ironed out, and that is what eventually leads to much more widespread adoption. When we talk about Gen AI, and particularly in the context of talent development, the way we are looking at it, and a lot of the research reports and analysts and companies that are studying this area very closely, there are a few things that are emerging. In the early days, even though we don't realize it, a lot of the impact is at an individual level, helping people improve their productivity with specific tasks. I know often there is concern about people losing their jobs, but really what is playing out is the fact that there are certain tasks that we do on a day-to-day basis. And in fact, there's research to show that almost 60–70% of our time goes in receiving information which comes in a certain format, collating it, maybe processing it, extracting insights from that, and then sharing it with others. And those are some of the areas where generative AI particularly is going to be very useful, provided we know how to use it effectively. But some of the other areas which are not so well understood is that it can actually spark innovation. It can be a sounding board. Imagine having a technology with which you can have a conversation on ideas that are coming to your head, and using one idea to generate maybe 5 other ideas, or having somebody critique your ideas and give you feedback about what is good or not so good about that idea, or how it can be applied or how it can be enhanced. And in the process, therefore, enabling everyone in the organization literally to have a personal assistant. In fact, one of the global companies whose CTO I had an opportunity to interact with said that, at the level of the CEO, they've taken a decision that in 3 years' time, every employee in the organization will have a personal Gen AI assistant, no matter which function they belong to, which vertical in the organization, or what level of hierarchy, but everybody deserves that. Now, if you step back and think about it, it's not so surprising. We are so used to, let's say, the world's top sports people having, their personal coaches who are observing every action of theirs, every match. There are video reviews that happen and they get personalized feedback. But that till now has been the privilege of people who can afford to have those personal coaches or gurus. Gen AI as a technology opens up the possibility that this could be something that each one of us can have and harness for our personal productivity. So, building on that, the way we are thinking about how an organization can harness this technology, particularly for talent development, something that we're calling our workforce transformation framework. And essentially, this is a 2x2 matrix where you have experience on one axis and you have experience on the other axis. When we think of our teams and team members, we would all love to have somebody in the team who has both the experience and the expertise. But we know in reality that's not true. A large part of the organization, especially as a nation, we have a young workforce, are people who are at an early stage. They have limited experience and they have limited expertise. Then there are those who have the expertise, but maybe they have worked on one specific project for 2 or 3 years or at one site or one location, and they have not had the experience of the broader landscape. In contrast, there might be others who have been stuck in the same process or same area. They are very good at that. They are your go-to people, when that particular work needs to be done, but they may not be multi-skilled, and you would probably struggle to see where else, what would be the mobility for them as far as their career is concerned. And then of course you have the really high potential, high impact performers, typically in the leadership team, and those being groomed for leadership. So what we see is that, interestingly, Gen AI is relevant in each of these areas. At the early stage, it can help people accelerate the process of expertise acquisition, as well as immerse them in scenarios where they can get experiences without physically being involved in those activities. So through simulations, through role plays, we know that people can learn very effectively. But in real life, it's not been so easy to create genuine immersive role plays, simulations, or they've been very expensive to do. Gen AI has the promise to make that far more democratic, far more easily implementable, and perhaps a lot more cheaper. Yeah, so if you look at where it can play the role of a force multiplier, so if you have people with expertise, one of the things that Gen AI can do is take on personas. One of our board members, Shrikant, he runs a company called Fractal Analytics, and he was sharing with me a very interesting use case where there's a global guru called Marshall Goldsmith, and they worked with Marshall Goldsmith, and literally all of his work, all of his books, his speeches, his writings have been used to train an AI model. And his only request was that I would like this to be free to the whole world. So ask Marshall, .ai, or I think it's askmarshallgoldsmith.ai. You can go and interact with the AI over there, and it's like as if you were personally having a one-on-one session with Marshall Goldsmith, which is not, easy or affordable. So that's an example. And the interesting anecdote over there was that the AI is able to respond to hypothetical situations which actually Marshall Goldsmith may not have directly dealt with, but based on his work, it's able to extrapolate and give meaningful answers. Now that's just one example of how expertise can be captured, and of course they've done it at a global level, but I'm sure many organizations have a scenario where very experienced people are superannuating, and the feeling is that with them a lot of expertise is going to go away, and that's true of the government, the armed forces, and so on. Gen AI opens up the possibility that that expertise need not leave the organization, and you could have virtual mentors and tutors who have the organizational expertise, and that is made available to people who are, fresh in the organization. Similarly, for people who are experts in one area or who've been doing a process, it can enable skilling and learning about new areas. So that's how we're thinking about it. And in our own conversations with organizations, one of the things we've realized is that a number of organizations are in a wait and watch mode, saying we really don't know where to begin and how to begin, and let's wait until the dust has settled down. I think that's not really an option anymore, because then there is a genuine danger of getting left behind. That doesn't mean that you jump into the deep end either. So, which is why, as an organization, NIIT's created a framework to help organizations adopt Gen AI in a more systematic manner. So it begins with, obviously, the leadership team in terms of their sharing a vision and creating alignment within the organization, saying what does Gen AI mean to us, how will we use it safely, what are the do's and don'ts, what kind of areas we think it can have an impact, and how do we plan to build skills at a foundational level. And so therefore it begins then with the leadership team, their minus ones, so that the rest of the organization can see that this is a technology that even the leaders are able to and willing to use. And the interesting thing that we found is that it's a very powerful tool. The creators of the technology felt that it's so intuitive to use. After you can have a conversation, that people will learn about it and be able to use it effectively on their own. But that's not true. And that's one of the reasons why there might be 2 billion registered users of OpenAI and ChatGPT, but the daily active users is less than 3 to 5%, which means people are not being able to change their habits and incorporate this technology in their day-to-day work. And that's the structured journey that we have developed. So it begins with the leadership team, proceeds to the end users, irrespective of which function they belong to, and helping them understand how to do simple things using Gen AI at work in a safe and secure manner. And we've also created a platform where company confidential data is not exposed, and therefore, even if people make mistakes, there are no negative implications of those mistakes. And eventually, therefore, the objective is that in addition to the top-down vision of ideas and use cases, the people who actually are working in the rank and file of the organization, they start generating ideas. And therefore, you have a combination of top-down and bottom-up use cases. And then those use cases can be developed into small applications or agents that can help productivity. And it could be in sales and marketing, it could be in finance, in HR, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to just maybe quickly share with you 3-4 examples of how Gen AI is able to make things better, faster, cheaper. So this is an example of an agent that we had created for a NBFC, and the whole idea was to accelerate the process of loan approvals, where a lot of the documents that the borrower submits have to be analyzed, and then a summary needs to be created. So something that would take 8 or 10 hours, basically Gen AI is able to extract it and give it as a report very quickly for people to be able to analyze it. This is something that we are using within our own organization. One of the things that we do is for people at the undergraduate level and fresh graduates, when they're looking at what skills should we acquire so that we become more employable. So we have a Gen AI tool that our program advisors are able to use to give meaningful inputs as the conversation is going on. So it has the ability to participate, listen to what is being said, and it makes suggestions in terms of what would be the appropriate offering. So this is an application that is relevant for almost every company. Any company has contracts, agreements that it is signing, and over a period of time you develop best practices in terms of which clauses are acceptable, which are not. So this is a small agent that has been developed which reads through a document and quickly summarizes. So what it does is it gives what is the scope, who are the parties involved, what is the purpose, what are the key clauses, and in case there are any changes that are recommended based on knowledge and best practices that have been shared with it. So the idea is that even junior members of the team who have been asked to review the documents, they can be a lot more productive, and the whole process of signing the agreement can be accelerated. For our own learning content development, we've found out that typically activities that would take days and weeks we can respond to requests, and we can make the first version of learning content on a new topic literally in hours and days. So these are just some examples, and I wanted to share examples from our own company because you have to try it out internally first before you can recommend to others. But in case you've been thinking about where to begin and how to begin this journey, and is this the right time to begin, I think a lot of maturity of the technology has happened in the last 18 to 24 months. And between last year and this year, in terms of prices and affordability, it has significantly become more affordable, almost 80 to 100% reduction in the costs. And so this is the right time to get started, because it takes a period of time for the organization to complete and really progress on the journey. ENY, for example, have been tracking how Indian organizations are progressing on their Gen AI journey. They've released 3 reports over the last I would say 18 months. And even the most recent report shows that only about 30% of the pilots that have been initiated actually reach a stage where the company is able to make a choice saying, okay, let's go forward with it. And only about 8% have gone into production. So it takes about 12 to 18 months to really progress and have things in deployment. So the earlier you get started, the better it is. And a good place to start is by building the foundational knowledge and skills, and which is why we created this 100-day adoption framework. Thank you.